Welcome to Minneapolis Sound Radio. I am Tanya Giddens, and we are here for the November Artist of the Month podcast. My guest today, Minneapolis born, Paisley Park made, and total musical magic. Discovered by Prince, this Renaissance woman, and I'm going to explain why I call her Renaissance woman, brought us grooves such as Love is Contagious and Wouldn't You Love to Love Me? She's more than an artist. She's part of the heartbeat of the Minneapolis sound, and she's done so much more. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you the November Minneapolis Sound Radio Artist of the Month, the one and only Taja Sevelle.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you for
Welcome.
having me. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate being Artist of the Month on Minneapolis Sound Radio.
Yes, and people have not heard from you in quite a while. I know that you've been doing a lot outside of the music realm, but let's go back to the basics. As some of my friends say, what did your mama name you? Because I know you weren't born with that name.
My original name was Nancy, and I was on KMOJ radio as a DJ, and it was always Nancy. It was like 89.9 inside the TCs, KMOJ, this is Nancy.
Oh, nice. You still got it. You still got it. Would you go back to radio?
I probably would because it's a lot of fun. What I really liked about it was just like staying up till 5 in the morning, listening to music in the archives and discovering new music and then just like stringing it together in a really, nice way where it would all flow smoothly. And I really enjoyed that. And I prepared a lot for my radio shows. So I would have like little stories that led up to songs and I put a lot into it. I also did the news on KMOJ radio and I
Okay.
did community calendar, and that's how I ended up being in Purple Rain.
Okay. Now, I don't remember you in Purple Rain. Tell us what role.
I wasn't a
I
major.
know you were extra.
I was an extra. But what happened was I received a call and somebody, was calling me to promote that they were looking for extras on Purple Rain on
Mhm.
Community Calendar on the radio show.
Right.
So I said, yeah, sure. And then I said, I'd like to be an extra too. So that's how I ended up being an extra. And one thing led to another. And I met Prince, I mean, of course I was there on set with him, but I met him later formally at First Avenue.
Okay. And what was that like? Were
It
you
was
were you
funny.
one of those people that just said, "Oh my God, it's Prince," or was it, "Oh,
No,
he's a
not at
local
all.
cat."
No, I really respected him, but when I met him, he came up to me and said, what's your name? And I said Taja, and then I said, what's your name? So, and he laughed because he knew I knew what his name was, and then it just sort of went from there. But yeah, I'm not necessarily the star-struck kind of a person.
Right.
I was actually really more starstruck when I met Michio Kaku, who's a
Mm.
theoretical quantum physicist, and he wrote a book
Wow.
that I really loved, and I was able to have a great 3 hour dinner with him and his wife, and
Hmm.
just like just barreled in questions about quantum physics. So I was really
Got
psyched about that. But I have a great deal of respect for Prince. I did from from the beginning, from the moment that I heard him sing. And I didn't know actually, I thought it was a girl singing. And I was at school and my friend said, no, that's not a girl, that's a guy. And I loved every single song on that first CD, For You, and
Yes.
it was just brilliant. And so I have a lot of respect for him, but I don't really get starstruck per se.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that when you met Prince, you went by Taja. Now, how did you switch over from Nancy to Taja?
Well, I had always, even as a child, thought that Nancy wasn't quite right for me. I love Nancy now,
Hmm.
But when I heard Taj, I was searching for a different name, and that was before I signed with Prince. And Taja really felt right for me. And so that's how it came about. But I embrace Nancy too. I'm cool with
Right.
it. I used to not be cool with it, but I am now.
Oh, I've been there. I've totally been there.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Never. I didn't like my name. I don't know if I don't like it now, but it's who I am.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
kind of you just have to kind of grow into it until you say, okay, well, this is who I am and this
Yeah.
is what you get. What you see is what you get. So
What
yeah,
you see is what you get. Yeah,
I
that's
totally understand that.
you relate. Yeah.
Now, when the first single, Love is Contagious, I remember I was in high school when that song came out.
Uh-huh.
How did that song come about to
Well,
be the first single off of your album? Um,
well,
yeah.
first of all, I was in love at the time, and I was, we would always play around, and I was riding on the handlebars of his bike,
Hmm.
and and we were just laughing and having so much fun. And I noticed that all these people that saw us, as soon as they saw, that we were in love and how much fun we were having, they just started smiling, and you could tell that our good mood was bringing a good mood to them.
Right.
And so that trickled into my psyche when I started writing Love is Contagious. And that's what sparked it. And then the other thing about that song being the first single, because I was, obviously signed to Prince, so you'd think that like Wouldn't You Love to Love Me or If I Could Get Your Attention would have been the first single, but Prince was the one actually who made the call and said, no, no, we're putting Love is Contagious out first. Like he knew it was a hit record. So
Mm.
so that's how it came to be the first single on the CD.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's because it's not like the typical for me, a typical first single, when you kind of break out. But
Right. Yeah.
sometimes that's not always the case, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's really you bring up a good point because when you're putting together the whole CD, you kind of think, okay, this is going to be the first single, or and sometimes it changes. It's just like what I guess everybody goes with their feeling in that moment when you have to decide which one to put out first.
Right.
And Prince, he's notorious for going on his instincts. And I was really, really happy because I wrote the song myself and I had, maintained my publishing rights, and which was something that I fought for when I was negotiating my deal. And I was the only artist that had that at the time. And also the only artist because when he offered me the record deal, we were at Paisley Park, and he said, I want you to be the lead singer in a new girls group that I have, that I'm putting together. And I said, and he already had Apollonia and Vanity. And I said, well, I'm a solo artist, so that's not going to work. And he said, well, okay, you can be a solo artist and I'll let you write on the first CD. I'll let you write some of the songs. So he gave
Mhm.
me a tremendous amount of freedom that he really hadn't given to any other artist at the time.
Right.
So, I was really happy about that. It was real cool. Really.
And one thing that in all of my years of being such a great admirer of his work and his work ethic, he supported, and some might disagree with me, which is fine. He supported the right for women to kind of push forward. That's how I
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
it. Especially
Yeah.
when you're a songwriter, he
Yeah.
wanted you to kind of hone your craft and do you.
Yeah, he hired a lot of women, and especially as he went on, with his career,
Mhm.
and he really gave a lot of women the spotlight, having, women guitar and bass and different drummer, um, and also just artists in general, and artists who are true artists,
Mhm.
because you have artists or celebrities even that they are more interested in sort of copying a sound to
Right.
reproduce and try to get a hit with that sound that was just a hit.
Right.
But he never wrote that way, and I never wrote that way instinctively. And I still to this day, one of the things that I love about being an independent artist is I can like the song that I have out right now is called Forgive, Peace, and Hope. And it's just
Hmm.
like a guitar, real, sort of raw song, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But
Yes.
but um the next song that I'm putting out, which we were going to put out this month, but we decided we're putting it out in January, is called Our Freedom.
Right.
And I wrote that song with Maureen Kaiser and Dee Moet, and he's a hip hop primarily. He's a great producer, and he will produce, R&B and pop, but he started in hip hop. So this is a hip hop song. So I'm going from like, a guitar oriented sort of grassroots, almost country western sounding
Mm.
song to a hip hop song. And I can do that because I'm a free agent. I'm an independent
Yeah.
artist, and I can put out whatever I want whenever I want. So I enjoy that freedom. Um it's really great because also, I'm just sort of guided by really God, and that's just, I can just kind of ride on that tip,
Right.
music out. So
Right. You took a little time off
yes.
from music. Would you care to share what you were doing during those years that you just were not immersed in the music culture?
Well, I was living in New York, and I signed a record deal with Sony 550, and I recorded it in Detroit, Michigan. And I was working with a producer named RJ Rice at the time. And I
Mhm.
love the CD that we did. But eventually I started to see all of the unused land in Detroit. And
Mhm.
as I came to find out, there were over 17,500 acres of unused land in the city, because the city was once 2 million people, and it had dwindled down to like 750,000. So that means you've got,
Wow.
a million point, 250,000 unused pieces of land or abandoned homes in the
Right.
city. So, and then I started to learn about all of the poverty in the city and just the food insecurity, food deserts, etc.
Hmm.
And it was a calling from God. I didn't know that at the time. I know it now.
Hmm.
But it was just, I was called to start planting food on the land and making it free for people who needed it, and whether they worked on it or not. And because I knew that, people are coming home from work and they're not making enough money, and it was important to have that food, be available for free, whether they worked on it or not. And so little did I know how fast that was going to grow. So I started with 3 gardens in 2005 when I launched it. I did some test gardens in 2023, 2024. And I mean, we went from 3 community gardens of free food in 2005 to, 4.5 years later, I was on Ellen, and we were doing a huge deal with Kraft and the Triscuit cracker, and we planted 65 gardens around the United States. But
Oh,
we had already planted like 100. So we were like, and the equivalent really of 600, because based off of a 20 by 20 foot garden size. So um, it just took off. And it was such a great vibe too, because we had the support of everybody in the community. So, I would go up to everybody and tell them about these gardens. So whether it was like, a drug dealer on the corner to a church grandmother, we
hmm.
had the support of everybody because they were free. And people who could work in it if they wanted to. And if they don't want to, they don't have to, but they can definitely come and pick the food 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that was one of the hallmarks of,
Wow.
of urban farming. And Prince got on board when he found out. I mean, people just started getting on board. T.I. got on board, Atlantic Records,
Oh, wow.
Richard Lewis, Ed Begley Jr., Kiki Palmer. They were all supportive. Young Jock came out to one of our biggest gardens in Detroit. We had gardens in Minneapolis. And so, yeah, when Prince found out what we were doing, it touched his heart because a lot of people don't know certain things about Prince. I mean, I think anyway, because I always hear interviews that focus primarily on his brilliance when it comes to music, but
Right.
he was extremely philanthropic, and everywhere he went, everywhere he toured, he was always giving to those cities. So there were many times like he would do maybe a charity concert at like a children's hospital in the afternoon before his
Right.
concert at night. And then of course we all know he would gig all night long after the concert. But
Yeah.
he always did something for communities, that he was all around the world, he was making, he was when he was in their town for a concert. And a lot of people don't know that. The other thing that a lot of people don't know about Prince, or they do, but maybe don't know the in-depth is, I mean, I think people know that he had a spiritual awakening.
Yes.
But he was very, very serious about it, very in depth. And I had my own spiritual awakening. So we had many, many conversations. And so when he found out about urban farming, we really started talking even more about what we could do to, uplift the world. And yeah, he wanted to, at one point he asked me, he wanted to start a community center in Minneapolis. And he asked Kathy Adams and I to go out and look for land, look for a building to buy. And so we did. And he wanted me to run it, but I was running urban farming. So I said, well, listen, I can't do that. I would love to, but I can't. But we'll put a garden in, and we did. But that community center never really got off the ground before he passed away. So
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
So
You know,
that's urban farming in a nutshell, and how Prince intersected with it. And he supported it a lot. He donated, he did concerts, he donated a part of his perfume
hmm
to urban farming. So yeah.
Nice. And one thing I can appreciate about gardens, a lot of people who have not experienced having food from a garden as opposed to having it, say, from a grocery store, the food is so much fresher.
It's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
It's like you've never, it's like when you go to Italy and you taste like a tomato and then you realize you've never really
Yes.
tasted a tomato. But it's kind of the same
Yes.
thing, It's like, whoa, it's a major league difference. And there's a difference in the nutrient value, The
Yes.
nutrient value is higher, especially if you're growing it organically, which I'm a big advocate for, I'm not for all these chemicals and glyphosate and all of
Right.
that, atrazine. So yeah, I mean, it's healthier for all of us
It really is. It
yeah,
really is.
yeah. That's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, because I know I have been in involved in local farming
Cool.
communities in the city.
Good.
And it's just a totally different, like you said, it's a different taste. And I
Yeah.
wish more people, especially those in urban communities, were able to experience that.
People can, and I think people don't think about it, I mean, it's the thing, obviously, our ancestors, I mean, that's how we've always survived. We grew on food. If back in the day when they saw an unused piece of land, they would immediately think, grow some food. We've just gotten away from it. It was also a war relief effort during World War II. 20
Hmm.
million Americans planted victory gardens, and they grew almost half of our nation's produce supply. So, I mean, that was like I always say this was before the internet, it was before television, before cell phones. They got that word out, and 20 million Americans planted these victory gardens. So people can grow in their yards, you can grow on your balcony, you can grow in your house, you can,
Right.
and it also gives the fishing pole rather than the fish. So it's like you kind of take control of your own food security.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, you were talking about forgive, peace, and hope. Tell us what inspired you.
So I wrote Forgive, Peace, and Hope with Jezreel Santos, who's an amazing writer and producer and just so talented, multi-talented. And I also wrote it with Denise Rich. And of course, Denise and I have been writing, we've been writing since like 1992. So we have songwriting relationship and friendship that really spans back several years. But what inspired me is I saw a couple from England. They were on Epic Television and they were doing an interview about how their son had been murdered the day after his 16th birthday. It's
Mm,
Barry and Margaret Mizzen. And they forgave the murderer. And
mm.
so this was several years ago, but ever since they've been speaking at prisons and going to schools and talking and talking about forgiveness, peace, and hope, and spreading that message. And they were concerned, and this is what really prompted me. I was already captivated by the story, but it prompted me to reach out to them because the killer got out of jail last year and got involved with drill music. And he wrote a
Mm.
song about murdering their son.
Oh no.
Yeah. And so then
Oh,
he was put back in jail because he was on probation when that happened. And so they were concerned about the messaging these days in the music. And I'm very concerned about that. I'm not just the
yeah.
music, but just entertainment in general.
Right.
What are we teaching our kids? Like when I was working at KMOJ Radio, it was started in the projects on the north side of Minneapolis, and it in the very beginning, not when I was there, but when it first started, it was a nonprofit and it only went 10 blocks. But the
Mhm.
the woman who started it, Jeanette Cotton, she was very strict about what we would play. I remember there was a song that came out called Yo Mama, and she wouldn't let us play it, because it was derogative. And
Right.
so, I had that etiquette that she taught us. And I already had the etiquette with my own upbringing, but, and we just had a different etiquette in society back then. But now it's like this, like, there are no barriers now.
There really aren't.
The messaging is it's just unbelievable, and you can really see how that can lead to chaos in a society. So I reached out to the Mizzen family and I said, listen, I share your concern about the messaging, and I don't know where this is going to go, but let's see where it goes. And then it came to me to write a song that would partially benefit their foundation. The more I talked to her, I mean, she said, listen, one of the times that we were talking on the Zoom call, she said, we were just at a school yesterday and a young boy came up to me afterwards and he said, I'm really scared because I feel like I could be the guy who was your son's murderer. And
Mm.
so she had to talk to this young man and help him to sort of find his way home out of
Right.
that. And they also go to prisons. They deal with parents who are, unable to forgive the
Mm.
murder of their kid.
Right.
So that's what prompted this song. The first, and then the chorus came to me in a dream. And so the first verse is from the standpoint of the young man who's in jail, who maybe doesn't even feel like he's forgivable, and because he's obviously still hardcore, and doesn't feel like he's forgivable, probably somewhere deep inside is my guess. And
Right.
so it's sort of taking through a path, and then he encounters, God, and there's a forgiveness. Here's your path to peace and hope if you ask for forgiveness. And then the second verse is the mother who's grappling and she just can't forgive. And
Right.
and then a voice comes to her, and says, I've always known when you were walking down hard ways, but I always saw the real you living straight ahead. And so and I want to show you a ride on this highway, a way to forgiveness and your peace and hope again. So, it shows a pathway for the mother to forgive, and
Right.
it frees her. And even though the young man may not get out of jail for quite some time, he can see that he can be forgiven if he asks for forgiveness. So that's what the
Mm.
song is about.
Yeah. Forgiveness is a hard thing.
It is.
It is a very hard thing to do.
Yeah.
I forgiving someone else, forgiving yourself.
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
that's deep. That's
It's
really
deep.
deep.
What's interesting about forgiveness, though, is like the harder the situation that you're confronted with, in which you're supposed to forgive, or that forgiveness is a way out, the harder that situation is, it's like you can only learn about what happens when you forgive someone, when you're confronted with a situation where, it's a difficult situation. And you only find out what happens on the other side if you do it. And then once you do it, in my experience, once you do it, there's like this energy. There's this thing that happens, and it's amazing, and it's
Yeah.
freeing. And then you really can feel that you're like connecting to God. But then when you're not, it's like you're shutting yourself off from God, and
Mm,
I mean that's my experience, because I've had some pretty deep situations where I've had to forgive, as I'm sure many of us have.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. I was just in a situation like that. And I had to let the person know, I was really angry with you,
Mm.
but I had to let it go for my sake, not
Yeah.
their sake. So
Yeah.
yeah, forgiveness is hard. We're getting a little bit too deep. Okay, let's get off
But
of
I
this.
just want to say one quick thing.
Sure.
It's helpful for us, but it does send a ripple of energy out, and it does help the other person too. So
Yes, and it's interesting
yeah.
because half the time the other person doesn't realize that you have these feelings of animosity because they sleep well at night. They're not thinking about what we're angry about.
Yeah.
We're the ones holding it all in and being, upset. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I totally get that.
Yeah. Well,
Totally.
I just think that we all have a face to face someday with ourselves and with God. And so, I mean, freedom is one thing, but freedom without God is,
Mm,
I heard someone say it the other day, is like it's chaos. So for me, that's really important. And I know that was to Prince too. I
hmm
mean, Prince, people don't understand how deep he was when he found God and he really understood it. And so that's like a part of Prince that I try to talk about, because we already know all the brilliance with the music. Um, but the conversations that we've had about God they were pretty deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the song that's coming out in January of 2026 called Our Freedom.
So Our Freedom, again, I wrote this song with Maureen Kaiser and
Hmm.
Dee Moet, who's a great producer out of New Jersey.
Right.
And Maureen Kaiser is a fantastic songwriter. She started songwriting a little later in life, and she's just blowing it up. She's amazing. Um, and Our Freedom, we wrote it during the sort of the lockdowns and the mandates, and um, it ended up sort of being it's about freedom, but it's also about AI.
Mm.
So, I
Oh boy.
yeah, we've all three of us, the songwriters, we have had conversations about AI, and certainly AI can be a tool. If I say, like I say responsible AI, a lot of people say responsible AI, it can be a tool, but it
Right.
obviously can create chaos in the world as well. So it's one of those things. It's it's just one of those things it's like most tools can't, they can be useful tools. And if on the other side of the coin they can be destructive, most tools don't have the potential to be that destructive, as
Right.
destructive as this has the potential to be. So it's really an important time for humans to think about what it means to be human, to hold on to our, expectations of excellence in education, excellence in math, excellence
Yes.
in reading and writing, and creativity. So instead of saying, well, let me just let AI write the letter, or like write the essay, or write the whatever, keep your brain going, keep your own creativity, because everybody has their own unique, reason for being here and creativity. And we don't want to lose that, because it's so cool, to be in that creative flow. And
Right.
if you just kind of get lazy with it and say, well, I mean, that's why, I mean, how many times do I go to the calculator too many times instead of doing it. I have to like make myself keep my brain working.
I totally understand that. There's some times when I'm just sitting here and I'm saying, okay, let me write this letter or let me draft it. And then I said, you know what? Let me go and clean it up. And I'll sometimes go into whatever AI powered thing it is instead of just taking the time and doing it myself. Like you said, AI can be used for good.
Yeah,
It can be used for good, but a lot of
yeah,
people are not using it. I've seen so many of these AI generated videos, and it drives me absolutely crazy. But now I understand why, was it last year, year before last, the actors went on strike?
yeah,
Yeah, I get it
yeah.
because that takes away from their honing their talents.
Yeah, and you know what's weird about it? When I first started in music, the Lindrum, it's called for musicians
Yes,
out there, they know the Lindrum came out.
yes,
And and even the like the synthesizers where you could just, program stuff. And I did that. I did that with my songs. And so the question was, well, now you're taking away the drummer. You're taking away his gig. You're
right.
taking away the piano player's gig, which was true, and if we do that too much, I think everything in life is a balance, right? So like
Mhm.
if we do it too much, then we lose one of the defining factors of being a human, which is our own inherent talent, unique talents and gifts and creativity. I mean, even if you're an accountant, you have creativity, you're creative.
Yes,
Um, so I just think tapping into the creative part is a big part of what humans are and important to it's important. I mean, I remember hearing a pastor say, God gave you the idea for a reason. And even though other people might say that's crazy, that's why God didn't give it to them. He gave it to you. He
mm,
knew you were going to bring it to life, right? So you
mm,
had all the unique, capabilities and qualities to bring this to life. Now, maybe the other person, they're going to bring something else to life because they have their own unique capabilities and qualities to bring that to
right.
life and talents. So we don't want to get disconnected from that. So I think and self-discipline, self-responsibility, self-discipline is going to be important, especially in these upcoming years with AI. So I'm not bashing AI in any sense. I'm just bringing the questions out and the conversation out in the song. My
Nice.
my husband is in the song too. Briefly, his ancestors, his great grandmother was a key person in the Underground Railroad. She was a conductor, and
Oh.
so we have some statues were that are in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, that have his ancestors' names and so yeah, Ma they used to call her Ma McClintock, and her mother was Jewish, and she and
Hmm.
her mother both worked on the Underground Railroad, and yeah, so and she was her mother married a man who was formerly a slave, and
Hmm.
so they were all working together, and so that's an aspect of freedom, right? Bringing
Yes.
and so it kind of and it kind of refers to our Constitution, which is such an amazing piece of work, and so it's kind of bringing up freedom from a few different standpoints, but the crux of it in the chorus has to do with AI.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it. I'm excited for this song.
Yeah, I can't wait to listen to it. I'm looking forward to it. Besides Our Freedom, what other projects are you working on?
Well, we're working on a documentary. I'm not going to really say what it's about yet, but I'm so excited. We're almost done editing it. It's already been filmed. And and then my all of my music is on the soundtrack of this documentary, including Love is Contagious.
Okay.
And and I've been, putting out quite a bit of music. I put out a song earlier this year called Turning Tides that I also wrote with Maureen Kaiser.
Hmm.
And last year I put out Silver Lining and Of Good Intent. I wrote Silver Lining with Dee Moet. again. And Of Good Intent, I wrote with Chico Bennett and Maureen Kaiser. And Chico Bennett was the first producer. He produced my first and second CDs on Paisley Park. So he
Oh,
was,
nice.
yeah, he was actually the very first producer that outside producer that Prince ever hired.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
everything is a full
a
circle.
full circle. Yeah.
Everything is a full circle.
With really
Nice.
wonderful, wonderful artists. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
Congratulations again on being November Artist
Thank
of the
you.
Month for Minneapolis Sound Radio. And
Thank
please tell everybody all your social media handles.
Oh boy, if I can remember. If you just go to tajasevelle.com, so it's TAJASEVELLE, not I.com, tajasevelle.com, and then you can see all of my social media handles on there and check out new music. So yeah. And I really appreciate what you guys are doing because you're keeping that music from Minneapolis alive, and that's really a special thing. So thank you.
Thank you. We
Yeah.
we can't do it without you all. So, it again, another full circle.
Love full circle. It's like the give and receive, right?
Yes, yes. Well, this it takes up our time. This is Minneapolis Sound Radio Artist of the Month podcast. I am Tanya Giddens, and I look forward to seeing you guys very soon. Thank you again, Taja, for coming on and chopping it up with me.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed talking to you. It was great.
Yes, it was brief, but it was great. We got a lot in, so I'm
Yeah,
I'm
we'll have to
glad
do
for
it
that.
again and do more time.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. All right, everyone, this is a wrap. We're done here. Have a great evening, night, weekend, month. Well, not year. We're not
Year,
into
maybe
the year
year.
yet. We're not
Yeah.
quite done with the year yet, but it's flying by. All right, everyone. See you soon.